Oh, hi! This week, thanks to a viewer request, I'm gonna show you like some sewing room essentials, at least for me. I've been hoarding a lot of supplies over the years, so let's get right to it. This is gonna be a little bit cheesy, but who doesn't love cheese? This situation back here is real important for me because I think of shit all the time and write it down on a scrap of paper and can put it all in one place. Or if I'm lucky enough to be around one of my notebooks or sketchbooks, I can kind of flesh out the ideas a little bit more. Because obviously you want to know what you want to make before you try to make it. As far as getting ideas for what to do, I get a lot of mine just from seeing people out in the world or watching TV or movies, and also YouTube is a great reference for trying out different projects and styles of clothes and what have you. But these are two of my favorite books and that I use the most. This is like a good beginner, hey, I just want to see if I can do these things to t-shirts. Lots of really cool ideas and you can do your own twists on a lot of stuff. Then if you're getting into more advanced shit and there's specific techniques you want to try out, even though a lot of them are completely terrifying and I still haven't touched most of this book, would recommend Vogue Sewing. Now it's time to cut it out. I've already made that joke in a video before. God, I'm washed up. One of my most prized possessions are these Ginger fabric shears. Ah, they cut so nice. Best part, they're left-handed. I also keep a couple pairs of really small scissors around. I also got some pinkin shears, which are good for trimming the ends of woven fabric and reducing bulk on the inside seams. One of the most fun tools to use is a rotary cutter. Use it on a self-healing mat, as shown here. Usually I have measurements and stuff on them, so it's really easy to figure out what you're cutting. As far as measuring devices, I really like having a grid ruler. It helps line up stuff and you can see what's underneath what you're cutting, whereas with like a thick wooden ruler or something, you wouldn't really be able to see if anything's shifting underneath the ruler. What I'm trying to say is it helps me fuck up a little bit less. I have two measuring tapes. This one's a little thicker, it's plastic, so it's good to like lay flat, but if I'm working on something a little less two-dimensional, I like using this fabric one because I can pin it along stuff. Having a nice big supply of pins is very helpful. I have a couple different kinds. Some are shorter and a little bit thicker gauge. Those are good for most things. I do have some extra thin, like good for silkier fabric. Super important tool that I completely spaced mentioning is a seam ripper. This will save your goddamn life. Or at least your brain. And by brain I mean sanity. It's very early in the morning. I also got a pretty cheap wooden thread rack. You will become a thread hoarder the more you sew. Now most importantly is the sewing machine. I have a Husqvarna Viking, the 140th anniversary edition. My first machine was a Brother. It only did a couple stitches, but that's all you need when you're starting out. And really, I kind of only use those few stitches. It can do some fancier things, but you know, the basics are called the basics because you need them the most. Was that the dumbest thing I've ever said? As far as sewing feet, this one came with like 15 different ones, but I did invest in a walking foot. It kind of looks like the AT-ATs, AT-ATs. I know I'm losing all my nerd cred right now. It just has these big feet and it helps pull stuff from the top because most sewing machines have little feed dogs on the bottom plate. It pulls both layers at the same time. So to thread my bobbin, you're gonna find where these little holes are. You wanna take your thread and put it in from the underside of your spool. Pull out just a little bit extra through the top of the bobbin. Put your thread on the spool holder right here. A lot of them have one little loop that you gotta put the thread around. And then there's usually a little bobbin winder attached up top. So once you get the thread sticking through the top, I have to push mine back like this, and then this wheel here pops out, and then you just hit the gas. Maybe turn the machine on first. It's helpful when that doesn't happen. Good God. Go as fast as you're comfortable going. It's gonna stop itself. Then you just leave a couple inches, snip that off of there, push this in, pull this out. Then for actually loading the bobbin, so I just push this into the little case, wind it around where the arrow shows. Tweezers are very helpful for this. I just gotta pull the thread up through the little plate down here. Pull the excess back a little bit. My plate actually has a little image showing where the thread is supposed to be loaded. Pop the plate back on. As far as actually looping the thread into the machine, most sewing machines have very clear arrows and indications saying where everything needs to go. So I gotta loop mine around back, arrow pointing to go up. So we're going up. Little lever up here you gotta pull it through. Then it comes back down. There's a hook back here. It stays flush with the needle. And then this is probably the most difficult part, is just getting the thread through the needle eye. And that's it. This machine makes it super duper easy for a ham-fisted ogre like me to use it, which is nice because I don't know if you know this, but I really like to sew. I guess I could do a second part of this and do a room tour at some point so you could see how I store everything. But otherwise, it's just back to the tutorials and silly debauchery. As seen here, mirrored images are difficult.